There it is. It showed up on my computer that it's live.
Oh, good. Good. Great. Okay.
So maybe somewhere at the bottom of your screen is where it'll, when it ends, we'll be able to figure out how to send the link.
Yeah. Well, and I can't see where it says a timestamp anywhere, so maybe we'll have to go back through it too and watch it and find that timestamp.
Okay.
I can't see a time anywhere.
Maybe we'll just make note of exactly like what time, like we finished and about what time we started. Maybe we can backtrack that way, like the last 15 minutes or just
Okay. So let's see. First question, what do you think of Osher's process for identifying opportunities and building companies? I think he was pretty good with all the businesses he built.
I was just amazed at how thorough he was. I mean, because then I went down and also looked at the appendix on like the actual details of how they built the little toothbrush thing, and I'm like, we have an Oral. No, we don't have an Oral-B. We have a Sonicare toothbrush, and I was like, whoa! I didn't realize like how in depth this process was just to make a toothbrush.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, I was also really interested in how can you jump into the toothbrush market, because it's not like it's a new market.
No, that was amazing.
I was also impressed that he could like automatically jump into like start marketing at Walmart. I was like, wow, you must be really confident if you're going to automatically start doing that. Or Walmart themselves must be really confident in your product if they're going to let you market and put it on their shelves.
Yeah. Well, and didn't he have a contact that ended up coming and working on a sales team? Yeah. That was like really close. Like he just had all the right people with him, and which is so smart, I think, to, get the right people with you on your team. You're all working towards the same goal. Like, really, he definitely knew how to run a company.
Yeah. Well, after so many tries, or so many other experiences, I'm like, okay. But then to jump into the toothbrush market, I was like, of all the markets you could jump into, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting how he just happened to like notice there was a need for something in like all these different random markets. Like he was in toothbrush. Before that, he was in the baby market. Before that, he was in like all these, they're totally different markets. But if he saw a need, he was going to go for it. It wasn't like, oh, I don't have any experience there. It was like, I know there's a need and I know it'll do good, so let's go for it.
And I can find somebody that can give me some more details on that area. Like he didn't have to be a super expert in that area, but then he also like found other people.
Yeah. It was just very smart, and he didn't like waste his time. He knew what he needed to do and who he needed to get on his team and what needed to happen. I feel like he was a good time manager as well.
I really went through and like was looking at his like I'm going back through and looking at my notes, and I highlighted all of his 16 mistakes that entrepreneurs make, and I was like, I can see that. I can also see that. Mm-hmm. I've done a couple of those because like when I have tried different businesses, and I'm like, yep, that was a bad idea for us too. Yep.
So. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Let's see. Look at question 2. Who is John Osher and how does he come up with ideas? I think we kind of talked a little bit about this already. He sees where there's a need and he fulfills it. He hops to it.
Yeah, I also just was thinking like he must really keep an open mind, or he must be somebody that just kind of goes and he chats with businesses, and he must be, just keep an open mind and kind of looking for how he could probably even serve, because that's kind of how you find what spots are missing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I imagine he does a lot of like chatting with other business owners to find out how all these different things need help. Like that's really the only way that he could know that they're even open or even available to like try
Yeah.
and snag.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true. You'd have to keep an open mind and be available and open-minded to everything in order to just hop around the way he has and see needs where other people haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, like okay, so we're going through my notes, like jumping from the toys, like he was even in the toy market, and then you go to toothbrushes. Like what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, he's so successful, and that's so great. Let's see. So the third question says, is spin brush a good idea, and how does John evaluate opportunities? I think obviously, yeah, the spin brush was a good idea. They've been doing really well, and they were able to get a hold of a market that hadn't even been tapped into yet, and it took off.
Let's see here, when did all this, I'm going to go back to my notes. Do we have in here like, well, okay, I guess this article was written in 09. Okay, so it was 1999. That's what it was. Is whenever they first started coming out with this. And I'm like, I was trying to think back, where was I in 1999? I personally was in like 9th grade. Did I have any idea about spin brushes?
Yeah, I
And,
I didn't.
and I was like in 2000 was whenever they were actually at Walmart and Target. And I'm like, so I was like 16 at the time. Did I have any idea about that? My parents didn't, because I didn't actually see a spin brush until, or even like notice that they existed until probably, let's see here, 05. But in 05, like they were really popular.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so like they were totally out and prominent, and I mean I can't even think of like which was the first one that I bought, but it was actually probably was a spin brush because I bought one for my mission. So I actually probably was, but I don't think it was Dr. John's. Like I don't recognize the name Dr. John's anywhere.
I know. I think they just really branded spin brush, and that's like, because I remember that's what the name I remember was spin brush, and I think of that exact little package and everything when I read it. So I think they definitely branded spin brush, but not necessarily the Dr. John's behind it.
Yeah. But I was like, you know, what was the other part? How does he evaluate his opportunities?
Yes. How does John evaluate opportunities? Which I think we've already kind of talked about too. I think everything ties in a lot. He sees if there is something lacking, and he takes that and runs with it. He,
Yeah.
if there's a need for something and he sees that need and he knows he can fulfill it, then he goes for it.
Yeah, I mean, he goes and he talks with other people.
Yeah.
So I mean, he goes and does research. So I don't know.
Make sure it's a good idea.
But I was like, I don't really feel like he's an engineer. Like I feel he's more of the business person. Mm-hmm. But it would take an engineer to actually design. I mean, like with all the like, from looking back at the appendix, like that's really an engineer's design.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe he had some engineering, or maybe he had an idea behind it. But he went and he talked to other people, and they had to design it, and they had to like, you know, create a test and make sure it didn't like pop off, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want a spin brush to like pop off in somebody's mouth when they're brushing their teeth. So how do you actually make it so that it's going to stay and it's actually going to work? And it was talking about in there how they were like they had to develop their packaging so that people could actually test the spin brush, and how they and how like the first packagings that went out, they didn't last. They only lasted like 2 months or a month or something. But it needs to come with batteries, and the batteries need to last like a full 3 months to be able to use it. And I was like, you know, I bought extra batteries when I bought my spin brush, you know, thinking about it, and I used the batteries that the package came with, but I was also wondering, you know, I also bought extra heads for the spin brush. So it's not like you purchase one, even though it was only like $6 or whatever. Like I didn't purchase one. I plan to use the exact same one over and over again.
Yeah.
It's like, so how do they design something that where you can actually put new heads on, so you don't have to purchase the actual brush itself, but you just resell all the spinning heads.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I don't know if a business owner is the same. I mean, maybe he's a business engineer. I don't know. But he's got
I
to
think
work
you'd
with
have to have
somebody
a
else.
little bit of that mindset to do all the stuff he's done. To really, he'd have to a little bit, because I think it talked about him working with the China manufacturers a lot too, and so I'm sure he had to work with them and see what would work in manufacturing and what wouldn't work, and I think he'd have to have a little bit of knowledge there too, so that he knew what to tell them. You know what I mean?
And how do you get like? Well, a lot of good things are made in China. So I was like, how do you make sure it's good quality? And I'm like, well, almost everything I know of is a lot of stuff is made in China. So it's probably all good,
Yeah.
quality. But wasn't it? I have to go back to my. Wasn't it like a team of like 9? The company. I mean, it was a really small group of them.
Yeah, I think there was, at the point in time where we started reading the case study, there was only 9 people working at the toothbrush. Let me pull it up too.
Yeah, probably not on the manufacturing side, but probably of like the leadership team. I think that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were small. So I mean, it's not like he went and he got a whole bunch. Well, that's one of his things is like not hiring too many people. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not having too much overhead is what he said. So he kept everything kind of to the point. Like they didn't have
There's unnecessary
yeah,
stuff going on.
not too many people to think of the exact same idea. Like he just got the people he needed and moved forward.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Just good. Let's see. Question 4 says, why haven't larger companies already done a spin brush? Now, this I think is a really good question, because it's like they obviously would have had the manufacturing capabilities. They would have, had the budget to already do it, possibly. I don't know, did they just not think of it before he did? I don't know.
Now, are they? Now, for this specific questions, they're asking about like the discounted, like the low price automatic toothbrushes, right? Because didn't they had
Yeah.
priced ones, but they're talking about like the low cost ones.
Yeah, the spin brush ones.
Maybe they just figured, if people are going to pay low cost for a toothbrush, they're just going to use the manual ones.
Yeah, maybe they did think that. And they wanted people, if they were going to buy an electric toothbrush, they wanted them to buy their more expensive products.
Because even Oral-B, they have some higher, like this $6 concept. I was like, I don't think my toothbrush is really like $6. Like, I mean, it might have been like more like 15, but or maybe it was like maybe like $8 or something like that. So I mean, it really was like a low cost toothbrush, but it's not as low cost as the manual ones.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a target market. Maybe they weren't focused on just that market. Maybe they hadn't contemplated that there was even a market available.
Yeah, like I wonder if they even, I don't know, thought about it much, or didn't think it would be worth their time and effort, into building something like that.
Well, that's true, because I mean, I imagine there's a lot of engineering that goes into it, and a lot of mechanics, and so maybe to take their team away
From something else.
and they'd be like, well, it's only just going to be a little, it's going to be a low cost toothbrush. Well, we already have low cost toothbrushes.
Yeah.
Toothbrushes. If you want a fancy toothbrush, you get the really good ones, anyways.
Yeah. So I'm sure they're like, well, what's the point of doing that if we already have these great ones? Kind of.
But I think Crest also does. Maybe it's Crest. I think they have really fancy looking manual toothbrushes. Or maybe it's Colgate. I know some of the companies that just have like, with all the extra bristles and the certain bristle
Oh,
colors on depending on how long you've used it. And now we're coming out with a new toothbrush because it has longer bristles than it did beforehand because they're sticking up on the side. So now get the side of your teeth instead of just the top of your teeth. Like, great. It's still a manual toothbrush.
how many different ways can you
Yeah.
get it like that?
So that's going to have a big fuzzy thing at the end, and it's going to be soft and bristles. And I mean, like I just remember my parents coming home as a kid, because I mean I'm one of 8 in the family, 6 kids and 2 parents, and so like them bringing home new toothbrushes, they always bought big packs.
Oh,
You saw different ones, and you're just kind of like, well, that's a fancy looking toothbrush,
yeah.
but it's still a toothbrush. Like,
Yeah. Who
really
knew there were so many ways to make a toothbrush?
yeah.
Excuse me.
I was like, you have soft bristles and hard bristles and little fuzzy things, and you're just like, and then stuff that has like flavoring in the toothbrush because it's all soft. So you're just like,
tongue cleaners.
yes. It's on the opposite side of the exact same toothbrush. So maybe the R&D department just hadn't hit the mechanical toothbrush level, or maybe they couldn't. Maybe they didn't have the connections that he did. Like that, maybe that was also it.
That's true.
Like if he had the connection with China and he was able to actually get it to a low price,
Yeah.
purchase it, maybe they just hadn't hit that connection yet.
Yeah, because maybe they couldn't produce it at a low enough cost in order for buyers to actually want it.
Yeah, because I mean, if I'm going to choose between a toothbrush that's, I mean, $6, maybe people might even wonder, it's $6 or $8 or whatever. Is it really any better than these other ones that are, $4? Just call it $4 difference. Are they really any better? Is it cheap material? Is it really going to work? So, yeah. I don't know. As a new consumer, that's the only thing I can think of, is that maybe people were just skeptical. But they couldn't have been that skeptical because they were selling like, what, 6,000 of them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Was that a month or in a year? I'm like, maybe was that monthly? It's up at the very top. Let's see here.
Per day. That was per day.
Oh, per day. Okay, so people weren't that skeptical. Just kidding.
Apparently, they thought it was great.
Yeah. So maybe people thought that, well, once it actually came out, once they actually had it manufactured, then once they actually marketed it, then people were like, hey, this is cool. So maybe they just didn't realize how cool it would have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 6,000 units per day. There it is.
Wow. Let's see. Okay, question 5 says, how much is Spin Brush worth, and how would you place a value on a company?
But they talked about that. I did not go through and I did not do mathematical calculations. They talked about it in the videos, but I did not have a chance to go back through and do mathematical calculations.
I have not done that yet either, but let's see. So if they're selling 6,000 per day at $6, let's see. And that's just like profit.
Okay, let's make this a bit bigger.
That's $36,000 a day that they're selling. So times that by, say, 30 days in a month, and then 12 months in a year, that's almost 13 million in profits per year.
That sounds good. Well, we'll go with that calculation, because I was looking back through going, okay, where's the other stuff of how they said you can make calculations? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty good for like a starting out company. you know, within its first year or so of going. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a good calculation. We'll go with
Yeah.
that.
I think that is pretty good, especially for a market that was already so saturated.
Yeah.
You know, this wasn't necessarily a new market. It was a new product for the market, but
I mean, it's a new take on an old product.
yeah.
Let's see here.
Wow. And the company was selling over 6,000 units per day. So if they sell more than that, then the profits are even higher.
I was trying to look through. I'm like, I don't remember them saying anything about how much it costs to actually make spin brush. Did they say something like that? Let's see here. Because if it says, I skimmed over the background section. So, okay. Yeah, I think the 13 million makes sense because in one of the sections it says in 1999, Gillette or Braun or whoever they are, they sold 10.5 million, and then 15.2 million worldwide. Are the base units for the high-end electric toothbrushes, and they also sold the equivalent of 55 million for the replacement brushes at a suggested retail price of $6 per replacement brush. But sometimes those are discounted. Let's see here. Okay, so unit, no, that's unit penetration. So even if we say, okay, let me look. Braun division had traditional pre-tax operating margins of 70% or so, and replacement brushes were estimated to deliver around 40% pre-tax operating margin. So, I mean, even if we take like, I don't know, 40% or so of that 13 million, like that's still pretty good for a company starting out. So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just comparing it to other companies, not necessarily saying, you know, what cost they had, because I couldn't. I was like, they didn't really go into detail of how much it cost them to make their spin brush.
Yeah, it just said they were able to do it pretty cheap, didn't it?
Yeah, but I was like, you know, all of that can't be profit.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, did we find percentages anywhere of how much it was to make them? But nope, I didn't see anything. It says that Osher put 400,000 into the company, and he raised 1 million to launch the business. And managers in previous companies each contributed 100,000. So, I mean, he had the money to do it, but it doesn't say how much it cost them to actually like produce a spin brush.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't find that either. But I think their margins were probably not bad either if he was able to produce them in China for pretty cheap, and then they were selling so well here. I think as far as how you would place value on a company for that other question, I think if it's, you find the revenue and the profits and everything, and if they're doing well, that's good, but really, I think the company's value comes from if it's constantly growing and each year and giving value to customers as well, not just value in their own pockets, but
Yeah, I would say that there's definitely value there. I mean, if there wasn't value there, then they wouldn't be selling toothbrushes. So clearly, the customers decide that there's value, and because people are purchasing it, so there is value. On a number basis, I have no idea. But is the company valuable? Yes. And the product's valuable? Yes.
Yeah.
How much? I can't tell you. I did not have a number at all in my outline I did for my write-up because I haven't finished my write-up either. But
I don't have a number for that.
But there definitely is value, because if there wasn't value, he wouldn't be selling them.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, and if we're going from 1999 or 2000 or whatever to like today, 15 years, 17 years later, I mean, I know of spin brushes because I've been to Walmart lately and looked at them. I know that there's spin brushes on the counter. So if that is the exact same spin brush that we're talking about in 2000, then clearly they're marketable and clearly there's valuable. There's value there. So, I mean, but it's also hindsight.
Yes. Yeah. That's very true.
So I don't know if they really mean for us to take, 17 years of additional information that we know about.
I know. I'm like, so we might have a little bit on what happened.
Yeah.
Not the full story.
I'm like, but I see them nowadays. So
yeah.
And I see that name and I see the design and I mean, and like the way that the logo is, I'm like, I see that logo. So I recognize that logo. So clearly it's marketed really well because I recognize it. I was like, and I contemplate buying toothbrushes like that for my kids all the time. But do I? Not necessarily, because they're little kids. But maybe when they're older, maybe I might.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What should John do?
Well, I guess my biggest concern whenever I was going through it was, how do you market your name? Like, I mean, you can have a great product and you can produce it for the lowest amount and you can have huge profit margin and everything. But if people don't know about you, marketing can be like the biggest hurdle to actually getting your company out there. And so I was like, you could be selling your product great now, but then you'll hit a spot where like you've sold a ton. So how do you continue to grow? And so I was like,
or the patent might expire, so all these other players might come in and just start doing what you're doing, and they have the brand name, but you don't.
Yeah. I mean, you can take over for a little while, but how long is that gonna last? And I was like, well, if he combines with another company, like that one, was it Crest or Colgate? I think it was Crest. They didn't have okay, because they didn't have a power toothbrush yet. And I'm like, combine with them, they already have. I mean, they've already done tons of marketing. You already have their name, everything. Because I mean, even just having like a recognizable household name is a big deal.
Yeah.
So if you have a household name, and so if you were to jump aboard with them, you'd still be able to make tons of money, and you'd also have like additional support. But at the same time, I understand how cool it is to like have your own company. So, and to run things on your own. But if this is your only product, it might be better to add that product on with somebody else. And so I was kind of on board the idea of him joining up with Crest.
Yeah. I was the same way. I think it would be smart for him to license with Crest, and because I think eventually all these other big players are going to come in with their version of his product. One day his patent's going to expire, or one day they're going to think of something else to top his product, and they have the brand name and he doesn't. So he's just one day going to be swept out. And right now he's kind of at the peak, at the top of his game right now. So now I feel like he would get the highest like offers for his product and the highest he'll get the most out of it right now if he licenses with Crest or partners with somebody, rather than waiting and people being like, oh, we can already do this ourselves, like we don't need you anymore.
Yeah. Like you might get the most purchase. I mean, if somebody was to purchase this company, now would be the best time.
Yeah. I agree.
I hear you. Okay, so what's the next question?
Next one, how do you analyze a case?
How do we analyze a case? Are we doing that right now?
Yeah. Well, we're doing it.
And like for the tutorial that we got beforehand, like let's see here.
Yeah, I mean, we read the whole thing. I think one of the biggest things in analyzing case is putting yourself in that person's shoes and like seeing things from their perspective, and keeping an open mind. I think we're good for analyzing a case.
Well, I mean, like previous times that I've analyzed cases, I just read through the entire thing and then like came up with my questions and thought about what problems could be with the company and like what could be possible solutions for that. I mean, that could have easily just been the directions I received in that organizational effective class, the 383 class. But I really liked the suggestion they had in this course, like the videos that we watched, the little tutorial thing. I don't know what else to call them, where he said like you read the first paragraph and you read like the first section and like the last section, and then you come up with all your questions, and then you're like all prepared to go and read the background and to read more details about the industry and stuff like that. And I was like, so when I went through and followed that process, I was like, this is a much more enjoyable process to go through than just being bored and wondering where in the world am I going with all this information in my head now.
Yeah. I do think it helps to read the first and last sections and then go back through and read like the middle sections. I feel like it breaks it up a little and it's not just like information just all the time coming at you, just that can get kind of boring in your head.
Yeah, like I remember in the previous class, I was like, but I was also very happy to see that this case was really only like 8 pages and not like 20 something pages, because I first opened it, it was like 22 pages. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be up forever trying to get through this. And then I was like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, this is enjoyable. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I still read through everything, but it was a better process. I was like, okay, I can do this. Hopefully.
Yeah, I felt like you could think through it better.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember previous ones reading through and just being like pages and pages of like all these details and all these numbers, and I'm like, I get the numbers and I can do calculations and stuff, but what's the point? Like, what am I trying to get to? I don't know. I'll just keep reading, keep moving on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man. Let's see. The last question says, write what question you learned to ask as an entrepreneur. Write what question you learned to ask as an entrepreneur. Are we supposed to write this somewhere? Or just talk about it?
Is that part of our summary? Do we talk? I mean, does it say that we need to write a summary? Like each person needs to write a summary of what we.
No, it just says to talk about it at the end. So maybe go into our summary now of what we thought, or I'm a little confused.
If we just talk about it, like as an entrepreneur, like the question that I would ask or learn to ask from reading this case would be, what areas in the world aren't being utilized to their full potential? Because I mean, you found something that was needed in the toothbrush industry. Well, like and then he found something in the baby industry and in the toys and other stuff. I mean,
yeah, and kind of along those lines, I think I would ask, like, what is something that's out of the market or out of like my comfort zone? Like, because he was in so many different markets, the toy market, the baby market, the toothbrush market. Like, I could ask myself, what other markets have I not worked with yet that have potential? Where could I go that I haven't already?
I've also heard of somebody saying, like, what could I use that would make my life easier?
That's always a good one.
So, if I could do something, or if there was something that I could develop that would make my life easier, then maybe it might be easier for somebody else also.
Yeah, because most of the time you're not the only one out there who has the problem.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because there's been different times with like our newest where I have this little cover that goes over the car seat.
Oh, huh.
Like a cozy cover or something, but and so instead of having like a blanket that you flop over the car seat, it's like this little cover that has like a zipper thing that you can like unzip it so it comes down, so you can actually like slide them into the car seat and then zip them up, and so there's this big cover that's actually attached to the car seat, so the blanket isn't being flopped everywhere or
not falling off or
or being blown away by the wind or whatever. And so there's been times where people are like, that's really smart, like that's a good idea. So and people will always just comment of, like, they're usually like older ladies of, all these young moms, they always have all these really cool gadgets. I didn't have things like that when I had kids. And other moms who were just like, yeah, me neither. All these cool little things. And so because I was also wondering, like, I was just reading different stuff that he did for the baby market, and I'm like, how much more can you get in the baby market? But back then,
yeah,
like back then would have been 15 years ago. So or even longer than that, because this is prior to him being in the toothbrush area. But I hear you. Okay. So yeah, there probably was a lot of neat things he could have gotten into.
Yeah.
Help, moms or parents with whatever little baby stuff he was doing. So
yeah, totally. It was just so smart, everything he came up with. Okay, should we go ahead and start the summary?
Okay, so it's 9:18 or whatever. So our summary is basically, he was really smart, and he he looked for opportunities in everything he was associated with, or looked for products that weren't, or looked for things that weren't being totally utilized, or different ways that things could be used. So I also think he wasn't scared to jump into markets that were already pretty saturated, or just to go, oh, we already have everything we need.
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of cut you off. But I agree. Like, if he saw that there was a need, he went for it. And just because the market was saturated, that didn't stop him. He didn't think, oh, they're probably fine. Like, he looked into it and researched things and saw if things could work, if the market was saturated like the toothbrush market was. So
I don't know what the summary. That's about it.
Oh, maybe we should say what we think he should do. I think we both agree that he should probably combine or license with Crest, right? Yeah. And
like that just seems like that seems like the safest way to go. He could totally go on his own, and he could continue, because he's on his own right now. He could continue on his own But for looking into long term, Crest would probably be like the best way to go.
Yeah. Looking long term, he might not last it long term, but if he combines with Crest, then he can end up growing and doing better than he could on his own, I think.
Yeah, because he only has this one particular product. He doesn't have like an assortment of products to sustain him for whenever this particular product plateaus, because all products do.
Yeah.
Whenever this one plateaus, like he doesn't have anything else to sustain him. Whereas if he licensed with somebody else, he could maintain his one product with the other company. So see, the company has a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, because they'll have the brand name that he doesn't have.
Yeah. The household name that everybody recognizes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast.
Okay, so it's like the last 4 minutes.